watches it. Thank you, DGen. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, one of them. Somebody said the car, my Discord mod. Well, one of them. Went on a panel with Professor Flowers, Luna Oi, non-compete, and another person who I don't know. What's up? Betrayal in the midst? I have to see what's going on.
Take a look.
Understandable, you know, and I think
what's happening.
We
have to learn.
I actually thought I had said I was pro-genocide because so many people were telling me that I had said that, and I was like, oh, I must have. And I actually watched it again today because I'm gonna do a follow-up video on it. I watched it again today, and I did it, and I was actually super clear.
She did. Actually, just to be, oh, dude, we might have to go back to it and fucking clip it. She did, and then she went back on it. She literally, Vaush straight up asked her, yeah, but what about if they wanted to genocide them? And she said, well, I mean, you know, whatever they decide is right for their liberation or whatever. And then Vaush was like, well, really? And then she was like, you know what? Maybe, you know what? Maybe not. No. It's like her first time contemplating whether or not genociding white people is a good idea or a bad idea. Like, okay, you're clearly not an adult.
Clear about it. I have like all these timestamps me being like, I'm not pro-genocide.
Like, well, you know what? Maybe, you know what? Maybe not. You know what? You know what? Now that I really think about whether or not white people are worth genociding, you know what? I'm going to have to go with no.
What I'm saying is that people who are colonized need to have their own self-determination. And
I love it was like they fall back to the euphemism. Make no mistake, by the way, she explicitly said that she was in favor of ethnic cleansing. No, none of these are car.
Thank you, Lolly Mater.
There we go.
You stay here.
Isn't that a good thing? No. Not if that's the conclusion that you come to. No, absolutely not. I think most people, like, genuinely should think through these processes, especially if they're making political content, so that way they don't have to, like, sit there and consider it. You know, a fucking white nationalist comes into your fucking space or your stream or what have you, and, like, hops on, like, dooloop, 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 fucking Discord calls you fucking, you know, Discord or band style, fucking just open debate. You fucking jumps into the Discord, is like, yo, what's up? What if we just genocided this group of people? And you have to go, hold on. No, hold up. Maybe? And they're like, wow, really? I wasn't expecting that. And you go, wait. No? Well, if they fight back. But if they fight back, then we can just say it's a civil war, which is the position that she's settled on. Right? If you ethnically displace them, meaning kick all the white people out, and then they fight back and try and keep, I don't know, their fucking property. If they try and keep their property and keep their possessions, right, and fight back, then, you know what? It's fair game.
Just to paint us into a corner and say, well, you have to denounce this man's flawed view to it. Faces.
Like positions were filled by black people, and the white people.
Flowers.
Find out.
Good evening, everyone. I'm so happy to bring me on. Really happy you brought me on. Professor Flowers.
Vaush, I don't know how about her views, but self-determination is not a euphemism for genocide. It's a euphemism that's often used, yeah. Self-determination is often used as a euphemism by white nationalists or other ethnic cleansers as a way of indicating they want an ethno-state, which, again, she explicitly defended. We're not talking about, like, interpretation or innuendo. She did explicitly, she doesn't support ethnic cleansing, just a country's right to ethnically cleanse. True, that is technically true. She didn't say she supports ethnic cleansing, only she supports the right for some countries to do ethnic cleansing. Which,
the Pepes
if
start
that's
rolling
a meaningful difference to you, that I suppose I should point that out, yeah, but yeah.
This kind of devil's advocate argument, what do you think of advocating for the removal of Israeli settlements in the West Bank, which of all of it? You're asking the wrong person. Don't know enough about it, says that simple. Don't know enough about foreign policy. I would highly recommend you go to Dylan Burns. Don't know enough.
I'm sorry that I put it.
Well, you did fine, and that actually.
I don't know what you're talking about.
As soon as I saw that EJ and everybody was discussing this, I'm like, oh my god, I was twitching in my chair because I had been holding it back on Twitter because I'm like, nothing gets.
My read on this, having not seen the debates, there's a tendency in a lot of these circles to read these questions in a case like the Haitian Revolution. Yeah, that's just a really disingenuous thing. South Africa is a democracy. They vote. They have a government, you know? The Haitian Revolution took place with a literal slave uprising. The situation there is so incredibly fucking different, you know? The reason why ethnic cleansing would be inexcusable in South Africa is because any problems associated with colonization could be applied through policy that you vote on. But yeah, the Haitian Revolution, that's just not the case. Though there are things the Haitian revolutionaries did that are objectively fucked up, you know? It's usually a little more complicated than just one thing is universally good or universally bad, you know? And yeah, Flowers also said, yeah, didn't Flowers kind of suggest white people can't really live in South Africa ethically? Yeah. I don't know.
Not suggest, that was
and so I just said, you know what, Car, come downstairs.
That was the basis of the conversation.
Relax, let the discourse blow over. But then I'm like, hey, a panel not run by a fucking egomaniac where we can actually talk about this like adults. And EJ is awesome. So
is that what you called this group of people?
The issue I see, and AI already made the great point about, the dissonance of people, a lot of these people, and I'm pretty active in a lot of these white...
Lance was also liking some cringe tweets about Vaush and PF. Yeah.
So what are the thoughts as reparations as a way to provide African Americans the generational wealth that they weren't able to get? I think that's pretty cool. I don't think it will pass. I don't think there's the support for it or anything like that, but I think that'd be really fucking cool. For sure. The way that I view it is America owes black people a debt because they benefited from it, they legislated it, they abided by it, they interpreted the rules as not being that. I don't view it as a vengeance on white people, especially a vengeance on the currently alive white people, right? Maybe some specific white people don't want to bring it back, right? Fuck those people, but the vast majority of white people, no. You're just fucking an accountant. Chilling, trying to get by. Fuck, you might even be a Democrat. God knows, you might be a fucking social democrat as well, not just a house dem. You might be a fucking full-blown based-ass sock dem, or what have you, you know? But, yeah, so, don't be
Guys,
weird.
I've said it before, and I'm painting a little bit with a broad brush here, but a lot of the left is gigacucked, okay? The left will, even if they're not bad people themselves, refuse to call out...
What's your one-sentence thought on Professor Flowers versus Vaush? I couldn't really give you one. I wouldn't know what to specifically target with it. Black supremacist versus Vaush.
Bad behavior for minority groups. I'm sorry.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Vaush argues with black supremacist who makes herself look like an idiot. Probably.
Often, so consistently across the board, it's really, really obvious that this is a problem, okay? It's unironically bigotry of low expectations, and it's paternalistic racism and sexism, and it has to stop, okay? If people have a bad take, it doesn't matter if they're a minority, they have a bad take. It's just as simple as that. I don't think about anything beyond that because I'm not weird, you know? But people will hear really obviously bad stuff, but then their brain clunks in and it's well, they are oppressed, and it's well, what is that? What?
Streamer spaces, a lot of them will praise the Haitian revolt.
It's also excusing ethno-nationalism under the guise of anti-colonialism. Yeah, true. People are saying that I'm associating black nationalism with genocide, but it's the opposite. Flowers is. I said I'm in favor of black nationalism and decolonization. I said I'm in favor of it broadly, and that there are tons of ways that you can do it. Flowers was the one who specifically refused to denounce the one bad way to do it, which is through ethnic cleansing, you know?
Yep.
That basically set the standard for slave revolts around the world. It's scary.
Can we stop equating self-determination in the context of black pride with Nazism? What? Nobody's talking about black pride. No, stop projecting. Oh my God, we're talking about ethnic cleansing. All right, chill.
Oh no, his chat is getting. His chat is falling for it.
Scared North American slave owners so much that they literally created fugitive slave laws, whole cloth, because they were that afraid of it inspiring more revolts, right? And they praise this event. I did a whole video about it, but then they say, oh, black separatism, bad, and I'm like, wait, that was one of the most historic.
In fairness, she did provide alternatives to genocide, although she didn't denounce genocide either. Is that a really high bar?
Yeah, I'm dude, I don't know. I genuinely don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because they're black or a woman or what it is, but this is getting weird. This is getting really fucking weird. Hey, listen, I come up to anybody with this story. Hey, guess what? This white person comes in and says, hey, you know what? Getting rid of this group of people wouldn't be a bad idea. And getting rid of all of them based on race is not a bad idea ever or at all either. And then I don't see any of these people like, hey, you know what? Maybe they misspoke, you misinterpreted them, maybe they just didn't say it right. It's like, dude, let's not run the gauntlet, okay? Let's not make excuses for fucking idiots saying that we should ethnically cleanse a country, okay? Let's not do this. This is not the time or the place.
The denouncing genocide, is that like a real, is it unfair of me to like expect that we should be able to like, all she would have had to say is like, yeah, I don't think ethnic cleansing or like deporting people because of their race is acceptable at all. And, like, that would have been it. Like that would have been it. But she could never do that.
What are you talking about?
Well, at the end of the day, I think the colonized people have a
You either didn't fully think it through, or she's pro-genocide.
Can't this mentality of yours be construed as colorblindness? No. Colorblindness is when you pretend to ignore race in a way that makes you blind to racial biases. So a colorblind person might not even believe in addressing systemic racism through policy because they think that kind of acknowledges race, you know? Like, I don't believe that at all. I believe that if a person has a bad take and they're black, they still had a bad take. It's not really colorblindness.
An impactful acts of black separatism in the Americas, perhaps of all time. And you're going to sit here and turn around and tell me that you're going to blanketly condemn one side of black liberation. That is very complex and has a lot of layers to it.
She said she was willing to draw the line of genocide.
See, he's pro-black nationalism. Yeah, so Vaush has no problem with black nationalism because black nationalism includes, like, not cringe shit, like, actual just kind of, like, normal affirmation of power for black people and, like, getting power to black people. It's, like, pretty normal, tame shit. There's a lot of it is encompassed within that. However, fuck that shit, in my opinion, because they associate so heavily with, they, like, rub shoulders with black separatists and are cool with it. Fuck that shit. Fuck it all. Fuck all that shit, okay? Many of the ideas of black nationalism are perfectly fine, perfectly based, right? But, when half of them are fucking black separatists and it's hard to suss out who, just, you gotta know when you're beat.
No, even at the end of the conversation,
you gotta create a separate movement.
That the colonized people should be able to choose what's done. That she
title.
Never backed off that. She continued to cycle back to that.
You know, but my main point that I saw with your discussion, with him in particular, and I've seen it with other streamers of his ilk as well, and what I saw with St. Andrew, also spoke briefly with him on stream once, and he did the same thing. And I want to say, suck my opinion with what spoke to him on stream as well.
No.
And I see this really sick pattern.
Oh, no.
Where the conversation always has to get routed into making us...
President, I don't know shit about fucking Scotland. I don't know shit about Scottish shit, but if they're doing it based on race, yes, I would say it's cringe. I'd say any racial essentialism is bad. If you're saying, well, you know what, I want to be free and I want to be not oppressed by a group of people, you don't say, well, I need to do this by excising a race of people. You say, I need to do this by excising a political opinion, if that's something that you want to do. For instance, the political opinion that it's okay to remove an entire group of people based on their race. That could be a really good place to start. But guess what? There's a lot of black people that would also get kicked the fuck out if you had that kind of an interpretation. And we're looking at a couple of them.
Things. Why are we always being pointed to denouncing things? Why is a conversation about the best ways to go about reparations, black liberation, black nationalism, or black empowerment, why does someone like Garvey have to be brought up just to paint us into a corner and say, well, you have to denounce this man's flawed views before we continue?
But Flowers didn't Flowers bring up Garvey in her first video? I didn't bring up Garvey. She brought up Garvey. I didn't bring it up.
You have to denounce.
And in the first video she made about me, which was done before I even knew who she was, she also implicitly defended ethnic cleansing. That was in the first video, before I even talked with her. Like, she brought it up. I didn't bring it up.
Ghazi Kazdor, you have to denounce not fucking around coalition or whatever. You have to denounce these people before we can move on. Why is the conversation being hijacked to force us to condemn the behavior of people who have differing views on black liberation and empowerment when we don't have that with you?
If I was talking with a white guy who was making some really weird statements about the right for people to engage in self-determination, and they explicitly cited white nationalists in a YouTube video they made about me, I think it's well within my right for me to say, hey, you don't actually support that, do you? Like, you agree you shouldn't be able to do ethnic cleansing, right? And then when they're like, well, I don't know. Like, it's not my fault they can't just be anti-ethnic cleansing. I didn't make them be like that. They're like that.
Eurocentric left-wing radicals, okay? I don't go into a stream and say, hey, EJ, denounce Marxist anti-Semitism right now before we continue. Denounce Proudhon's anti-Semitism. Okay, there's a lot of anti-Semites in Europe, so I could just go down the list. Denounce all of your fucking theorists' anti-Semitism before we go on, because apparently...
What if they had been saying a bunch of stuff that sounded kind of anti-Semitic and you wanted to talk about it?
That was very in vogue in Europe for like 400 years, right? I don't do that. So
Makes sense if the South won? That's not true, Dio. Because we weren't given the entitlements that we would have realistically been owed had the Constitution actually been ratified in the way that it should have been, or interpreted in the way it should have been.
It would be silly if that's it would be silly if that's how I open the
We
conversation.
could have a conversation about it another time, Dio, if that's
I don't
something
like
you want to
labeling
do.
people as Western chauvinists, but goddamn if the shoe isn't starting to fit.
Yeah, ooh, it's not looking good, guys. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Also, did the conversation start with me impugning her? I thought the conversation started with me pretty calmly saying that I felt like I was misrepresented. I said that I had known the difference between black separatism and black nationalism ever since, like, the day after the debate that she cited in her first video, and then, since then, I've been consistent. And then I said that the only problem I have is sometimes people will dog whistle and support black separatism when they say they're black nationalists, and then she seemed to take issue with my denunciation of black separatism, which I don't like because I don't like ethnostates, and that's where things went. But it wasn't me, like, I didn't, like, run in there to, like, demand that she answer for her crimes, you know?
Really, really snugly. And it's just like, well, my prescriptive idea of what a revolution should look like is the only correct one. I guess I didn't offer any kind of question to the panel.
Talking about a revolution.
Talking
About not doing ethnic cleansing. Wait, hold on. If my version of a revolution is don't do ethnic cleansing, then yes, that actually is something that I think you all should adhere to. You know? Actually, yes, I will apply that standard.
Add this to what he just said. To what he said. It's funny that he wants you to have denounced Marcus Garvey, but he ain't denounced the Democrats who started the motherfucking Klan in the first place. He ain't denounced the fact that Biden and Bernie supported locking up and calling black boys. That and he wants to talk about the.
Oh my God, what do they call black boys? That was so bad that his microphone.
Yeah, I was gonna say, holy shit, yeah.
Klan. I'm like, Democrats were the Klan. What you mean? Look up your fucking history. Goddamn. Well, I'm just throwing it out there because you said that's ringing pop my head. But
sorry, was I pro crime bill? What? If some. Wait, I've talked about the over-policing and over-criminalization of black people my entire stream. Like, you could just come on, but hey, Vaush, do you think it's fucked up how the Democrats have contributed to over-policing of POC?
There you go, you grammar Nazis. Okay? Fuck you.
Yeah.
The real Nazis are in my chat. Holy shit.
Is this horseshoe theory? Right, like, okay. All right. Wasn't the same types of people voting for the Democrats back then, but okay. The Klan's also bad. I think I've said that before.
Not really, Dio. I don't think so.
Yeah, and I also, real quick, I wanted to address something because this is something that a lot of people might be getting, twisted. There's this comment that's going back to something BP said. I'm wild because I'm half white. Isn't that a racist statement? Do you want to address that, BP, or anybody else on the panel?
I don't even know.
He's just playing. Is it a racist statement? I mean, okay, reverse racism. Let me start by that. Was a concept that was formed by Nazis. So if you want to run with that, know who you're agreeing with. But second,
what?
Oh no, there's this thing in the black community talk about light skin crazy.
One,
and like I also believe like
I don't even know if that's true. And two, who cares? It definitely does exist.
Wait, am I being impugned here? I don't talk about reverse racism. I think that if a black person is racist to a white person, it's just racist. I think I've said reverse racism sometimes with air quotes. I think I've done that before. Like I think you're reverse, but I don't actually believe in it like conceptually. It's just
Wait, what? Okay, I'm assuming reverse racism has a connotation that I don't understand.
How you think? So I'm not gonna front.
Wait, hold on.
And like I also believe like genetics does play some role in how you think. So I'm not gonna front. But
wait.
So if you want to run with that, know who you're agreeing with. But second, oh no, there's this thing in the black community talk about light skin crazy. And like I also believe like genetics does play some role in how you think. So I'm not gonna front.
He's saying the genetic differences
I
between
want
light
to
skin and dark
see
skin black
what
people
happens after this. I want to see him play this and see what happens after this.
Wow. Well, I guess we're just
reverse systemic racism. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Maybe
people think differently genetically. This is our panel where we're impugning me for being racist. Okay.
But yeah, I was mainly playing. But the reality of it is like I don't think you can really be racist against the white people. I think they hold the power. But also pointing out how my European side has a trend of being fucked up and a history of being ancestry from generation being fucked up, and then playing on that as a joke. I don't think it's racist. I just don't think that's really a thing because it's not ahistorical. Like I'm gonna be honest, it's not ahistorical. Like it's not like white folks didn't do that. And me playing on that fact that I'm half white, being I don't know, man. I don't know how like you can take the racism. And I think also you gotta look at it as like for what it is. It's like okay.
I think you can make funny jokes about this.
Okay, yeah. What? I think you can make jokes about this if your political ideology doesn't literally support that idea. Right? This is Pepe at its finest. That's what it is. It's just a joke, bro. These people's political ideology falls in line with that. That if you're like white, there is some genetic essentialism to your like oppression. It literally said, well, it is historically true that people that look like this are oppressive to like other people. It's like, dude, you're fucking dog whistling so fucking hard. And the only reason why you think it's not that big of a deal is because it's happening about white people and not about black people. Like, don't be fucking weird, man. Yeah, it's just a joke about cookies, dude.
But something tells me that this is basically like, literally like, mixed race people are tainted by their European ancestry. Isn't that kind of what he's saying? Like, you could make jokes about it. I think you can make funny jokes about it that I wouldn't have a problem with, but it seems like that might be like a strong underlying belief. You know what I mean? Yeah, but he's mostly playing. Yeah, he's mostly playing. Well. Yeah.
Hey, white people done like foul shit over and over again. So if I joke about my white side who has done foul shit over and over again, like even in my family, right? And when I joke about that, then I don't think it's racist. It's my own part of my own. I mean, are you saying I'm internalized racism against my white side? I mean, I don't know how like that's working. I don't know if that really works that way. But I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of tipsy right now, so I'm kind of being sloppy with it. But
oh shit, the problem is that I'm not tipsy.
You gotta get on the level card.
I don't know. It just sounds like self-deprecating humor. I mean, after saying that you think different races genetically think different, and then talking about how you're tainted by your white half because your white half has done bad things. I don't know. Maybe I just have
on top of the fact that this was all in the context of saying that a dude that was arguing that we shouldn't ethnically displace all white people is a cringe white supremacist and we should be able to ethnically displace all white people. Yeah, I don't feel like that joke hits quite the right spot that I would want it to. Can black people not be racist? Of course they can. And if not, then reverse racism. And if not, then reverse racism, having prejudice towards any group based on it. I'm assuming that reverse racism doesn't have that same context, is the reason why he's disagreed with it. Because Vaush, time and time again, has agreed that black people can be racist towards white people. Reverse racism just must have some kind of extra context. When you're a righty or a lefty, it doesn't matter how extreme you are. There's always someone more extremist than you that will cancel you, of course. But
really, it's just, I don't know. It could just be a big meme. This guy was making weird posts about you on Insta. Oh shit. Was I the victim of racism?
Get on level, you know?
I'm getting there.
I guess the racism thing is pretty important. So does anybody else have any, like, that's teaching us a lot, I think.
Yeah, I mean, bullshit. I think, okay, actually, sorry, go ahead, Alan.
Oh, I was just gonna say that, like, I mean, I don't think it's like necessarily a genetic thing. I don't think people are essentially anyway. But the thing is that.
Oh, thank God! Thank God! Christ
Holy
Almighty,
shit! Jesus! Wow, that's a brave take, man. Holy shit! Very brave. Damn, we should get this guy an award.
Lord, please, thank you for pointing out there's something fucked up about saying different races of people think differently genetically. Thank you so much, AI, or Al, I don't know which, because it could be either, but thank you. Thank you, AI, machine spirit. Blessed be the Omnissiah.
There's a historical inertia to these conversations, right? So if your way of life, and for the way of life for most Americans, Canadians, Australians, New Zealanders, white South Africans, so on and so forth, and Europeans in the continent, on their continent as well, relies upon the subjugation of people across the planet who are not European, then it's going to be something that's transmitted culturally to be oppressive towards said people. I mean, me and EJ talked a little bit about this before stream, and with Loon as well, but even in the combating of climate change, somebody like Vaush a year ago, Vaush himself, he made a video with a PhD candidate where they talk about advanced countries paying off the developing world so that they can remain complacent while the advanced countries come up with technology to mitigate climate change, then the developing countries can advance. That's climate colonialism. And
wait, hold on, no, my argument was the opposite. My argument was climate reparations. I was saying that we should pay a fuck ton of money to sponsor the development of green energy in the developing world because we fucked them over economically and it's hurting the whole planet now. I was saying the opposite, that we should be giving them industry and investment and everything with no strings attached. I guess as long as they spent it on green energy. It's the opposite. They're colonizing my wallet. I don't know. No.
They're colonizing my wallet.
If you're somebody who even claims, like, the idea and the goal is end climate change or fix this problem, even when they have a goal that is supposedly supposed to be for our side on the left, they are employing tactics that are colonialist because that is the history that we grow up with in this country. And if you're a white person, then those are your ancestors and how they...
It's like no one bothers to understand your views. Dude, it's so blackpilling. No matter how hard I try, it feels like I never actually get criticized for things I actually believe. Why do you think people misunderstand your points so often? It's because they hear bad shit about me beforehand, so when they finally do encounter my points, they encounter the worst versions of it, that have played a telephone game through a dozen people reciting the worst things I've ever done. And eventually the thing they hear has nothing to do with the thing I said, you know?
Did things. So even if it's not something inherent to these people, it is something that is transmitted generationally, and it seems that people forget that the global south is the one supplying them with the copper and the zinc and the coltan and all the materials that they need to even create these technologies. So I mean, and to go into the idea of like anti-white racism, I just don't subscribe to that because we don't really have any power to bring against white people, and we don't really make fun of them for physical characteristics.
Okay, hold on.
What?
I've been on Twitter.
What?
Yeah, you do. That does happen. I'm not saying that's systemic racism. I'm not saying it's ending my life. I'm just saying, you know, it's been known to happen. Yeah, you gotta own that, okay?
We don't have a tendency to do that. Some people do, but it's kind of rare. Most of the time, people make fun of white people for their behaviors, like Professor Flowers brought up in that video with that hilarious whipping nene thing. I can't.
So, you know, I think you played a really good point there, and I came in a little late to the conversation, but I think that the point to take from this, you know, setting the record straight on black nationalism, I'd like to set the record straight on black separatism, because a lot of people seem to get it wrong in online spaces. The best way, I think, to visualize it for anyone listening, separatism is basically self-determination and creating as much space away from your oppressors as possible, allowing you to act upon that self-determination. If that creating space from oppressors requires violence, then it requires violence. It doesn't have to, though. The problem is that historically, outside of the people of Haiti, when Black Americans in the diaspora have attempted to peacefully create that space away from their oppressors, they were met with violence.
God, the problem is this language is so loaded with euphemism that you could be defending everything from like peacefully leaving a country to go move to another one, or a race war. The language that's being used here could blank.
So super creature, they're typically referring to, and I'm typically referring to, institutional power. And yeah, they don't have institutional power. Super creature, just so you know, there was black people that killed white people as hate crimes when they were slaves, right? You recognize that, right, super creature? There were black slaves that killed white slave owners when they were slaves, but we wouldn't say that those black people had power, right? This is what we're talking about. We're talking about systemic or institutional power to be able to do these things, right? And how the attitudes of a class that is referred to as dominant can have uneven effect on the class that is being, agitated against.
Defend like anything. What do you mean get away from your oppressors with violence? And what level of oppression? What about black people in America today? Would black people in America today have the right?
You're wrong. The institutional capabilities for individual white people to commit acts of lawlessness is definitely more viable for them in comparison to black people due to the uneven treatment in the criminal justice system and even in the eyes of the police when it comes to the profiling or the interrogation of suspects or individuals on the basis of their ethnicity. The over-patrolling of black areas and your viability to participate in those actions as well. So you're wrong. The institutional power is in favor for white people to do a lot of these things.
To engage in a violent revolution, to secede, like with a state or something? Like, I know that's impractical, but like, is that what we're morally legitimizing? And what do you mean get away from? Are you going to form a new country? Are you going to have borders and police to guard those borders? Are you going to deny people of the race you consider oppressive entry into your borders?
Of course!
Like,
Let's be honest, of course they will.
Why do you always take it to extremes? Witchblade, I'm so patient with you people, okay? With the bans, everyone. Why have I spent the past 2.5 years arguing against Nazis only to find my audience is incapable of understanding the danger of this language? We're literally, like, the language used literally describes racial separatism and violence used to achieve it, but in vague enough terms that it can encompass a lot of stuff. Like, the whole difficulty with dealing with neo-Nazis is that they cloak their intentions in language designed to inoculate, distract, mislead. And even though black separatists are not literally neo-Nazis, the fact remains that obfuscating language has the ability to null and numb people's abilities to recognize harmful political action. That's why I take issue with the ambiguity of the sentence, or the language that's being used here. Because it's never really direct, is it? Was Flowers direct? It's always lofty. I think that oppressed...
Nobody's disagreeing with you, super creature. There's a difference between individual racism, interpersonal racism. Like if I call you a white dumb fucker, you call me the N-word, right? Also, that's noted as well. I don't have a word that hits as hard as the N-word for white people. Nobody does. In comparison to, non-black people having a word like the N-word. And, various other words for, other groups of people, right? But there's a difference between that, interpersonal racism, or what have you, the hatred of another group, in comparison to institutional racism, right? Systemic racism. Those are different systems, right? Black people don't have any systems of systemic power to be able to make systemic racism happen and to make their, racism more amplified, but white people do. That's it. I don't think that's super meaningful when we're talking about, making fun of or bullying white people or trying to say that white people should get removed from a area because of whatever, but it matters when we're talking about whether or not a white person gets really fucked up because they're called a Karen. Like, all right, you'll live.
Colonized people should have the right to self-determination. Well, okay, but what do you mean? Give me a policy. How does this look, But they don't answer because it look really bad.
Yeah.
So are you saying you just erred on the side of a crypto-Nazi in the debate you just left? What?
Hey, Lotus, they get a first time sub.
What does this have to do with siding with them? What? All right, you're getting bit. Yeah, okay. Why all the people who come in chat? I try to give you fair space, but you always end up being fucking insane. Jesus Christ. I try not to go full 1984. I try. God. All right.
They were met with unkind violence that was not even reciprocated, and they didn't retaliate, but they were met with violence that wasn't warranted. You can talk about Rosewood, Tulsa. You can talk about MOVE in Philadelphia. MOVE was a black separatist movement, and the cops bombed it. And they
MOVE in Philadelphia. I don't know about that one. Philadelphia. I don't know about that one. I think I've heard of it, but I don't. Let me see. MOVE, originally the Christian Movement for Life. Imagine being Christian. Is a communal organization advocating for nature, laws, and natural living, founded in 1972. Lived in a communal setting in West Philadelphia, abiding by the philosophies of anarcho-primitivism. Oh, shit! And Prim Gang. Hold up. The group combined revolutionary ideology similar to that of Black Panthers with work for animal rights. Sick. MOVE is particularly known for two major conflicts with the Philadelphia Police Department. In 1978, the standoff resulted 9 members. Okay, gotcha. 9 members were convicted of killing the officer and received prison sentences. Moved townhouse. Police helicopter dropped 2 bombs.
What? Hold up. The death of 1 police officer and injuries to 16 officers and firefighters? Why were firefighters on the scene and being injured? As well as members of the MOVE organization. 9 members were convicted of killing the officer and each received prison sentences of 30 to 100 years. In 1985, another fight ended when a police helicopter dropped 2 bombs onto the roof of the MOVE compound and townhouse located at this place, resulting...
Well, that's a strategy. Resulting fire killed 6 MOVE members and 5 of their children. Destroyed 65 houses in the neighborhood. The police bombing was strongly condemned. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe we think that's a little bad. Possibly.
Wow. 1.5 million.
And 65 houses in the neighborhood. Just like, God. It's like that. Do you guys remember that scene?
12.8 million in damages. Sheesh. Oh my God.
From do you guys remember that scene from The Dark Knight Returns, the Frank Miller comic, where the police just occasionally like drop bombs on condemned buildings, you know? And that was supposed to be a future dystopia. MOVE bombing. I think I've heard of this before. Yeah, the MOVE bombing.
Who was this, 9 years later?
Jesus Christ. Jesus fuck. Looks like fucking Afghanistan. Looks like Baghdad. Jesus Christ. I'm guessing there was like a stand-up? They probably didn't just bomb for funsies. There was probably like a stand-up and they wanted to avenge the cops that had died, so they bombed the thing. That's not
probably
an excuse or anything.
something like that. Yeah, probably something like that.
Or was it totally, completely unprompted? Hold on. There was an armed standoff with the police, yeah. MOVE members fired back, not even a gunfight ensued, in which one officer was bruised in the back by gunfire. What? Read chat, you dumb fuck. Cars here. Okay, Cars here. Hold on, 1 second, I'm reading. Just a sec, Jesus. God, fuck. Oh my God. There was complaint to the city for years about trash around their building, confrontation neighbors, bullhorn announcements, sometimes playing civil unrest. They obtained arrest warrants, charging 4 MOVE occupants with crimes including parole violations, contempt of court, illegal possession of firearms, making terrorist threats. Seems likely, given some of the factors present here. They've got classified as a terrorist organization. Action.
What is terrorist
Holy shit,
threats?
chill, one thing at a time. 500 police officers arrived in force. What the fuck? Why bomb it? Why not just reduce the building to ash through bullets? Why not simply crush the building with the combined weight of all of the bullets that you fire at it? Like, what? 500? Christ. Water and electricity were shut off. This is all just because they had fucking warrants? Jesus, fuck. They used over 10k rounds, Vaush. They tried. Should have tried 20,000. They should have simply debated them out of the building. True! Why does nobody ever think of stuff like that? Too bad they don't teach the police how to debate. You know why? Because the police don't watch the Vaush channel.
True.
If they'd been Vaushites back in the day, oof.
All right.
If I remember, they were separatists. I'm not gonna... Alright. Okay, fine. Alright, Car.
The fuck is Car?
You into Vaush voice. Just let me pee first. Right? Oh, I don't know. Ups and downs. Weren't we on a panel together a second ago?
You know, I just saw you not too long ago. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Okay, what's up? Why the white chauvinism stuff?
I'll be charitable, and maybe I can ask you instead to...
It's okay if you were meaner in the panel than you would be to me in talking. There's different contexts to the... I'm just saying, I'm not like expecting you to defend the words said there. Just like generally, like, what are your thoughts?
Look,
the guy on the panel just now? One of his mods? Wait, hold up. Who?
Yeah, maybe.
Oh, this person? So wait, this person is one of Vaush's mods?
A lot of this stuff, I mean, it really just comes off to me as like reactionary tendencies.
Yeah? Oh, Jesus.
For them. Reactionary tendencies, but for the oppressed group instead of the oppressor, you know?
Well, you know, I don't know if I came off as wholeheartedly agreeing with anyone on the panel entirely or all of their points, but I can tell you now to set the record straight, which is why I pinged you for a conversation, not a debate, a conversation, because it turns out talking to you in person is a little bit better than watching you. It's and we can share a lot of jokes about Rob. That guy is a fucking 240 Bravo of talking points, and I had to start interrupting him just because he would go for 5 minutes at a time.
I fucking love that guy.
He's a horrible spectacle. It's something. He is something. So here's the thing. I can unequivocally say I don't want to ethnically cleanse people. I don't want to genocide people. I don't think that's necessary. And it's bad. So there you go. Hopefully your audience heard that. Don't want to genocide. Don't want to ethnically cleanse. I don't even necessarily think we have to go as far as Haiti did back during the revolt. While sometimes I strongly feel, like when I'm talking to Rob, that I should just take to the streets with my machete, I don't think that's actually all that effective this day and age. So here's what I want. And maybe it's better if I just reassert my position and put the nuance in there so people don't think I'm vague posting. When I say create distance between your oppressors, I don't mean move or deport the oppressors. I mean take the opportunity, if given, to get away from the oppressors. Does that mean leaving willfully? Maybe. Does that mean trying to create enclaves and communes within a settler colony state? Maybe. That could be what it is. In the case of move, that's what they were trying to do. And part of what led to the unfortunate interaction with that police officer who died was the cops fucking with them nonstop in Philadelphia. And in response to an officer initiating a altercation with them and dying, they burnt down a block of homes and killed 8 children. So, you know, any time that Black people in their efforts for Black liberation have tried what one could call peaceful, non-exclusionary means of Black separatism, it's been met with violence. It has no historical precedent for palingetic ethno-nationalism, which is what you're saying dog whistles to. In terms of being specific about the things that I would like to see, I would like to see the Homestead Act restored and given to Black residents at the same rates that it was given to white residents back when it was first initiated. 10% of the land in the United States was given to people functionally for free due to the Homestead Act. I want to see that be done for Black people to allow them to build good communities with generational wealth, allowing them to provide for the future success of their families. This is a hard, concrete policy that I'd want to see. There's no exclusion there. There's no violence there or white genocide. And Lord knows, when I joined your channel, you were a lot edgier. You used to make Mayo side jokes all the time. Why'd you stop?
I mean, I could be amicable to this if the government wants to buy up unused property and then give it to Black people as a form of reparations. That doesn't sound bad at all. But, I mean, I think there are better ways to do it. But, I mean, I don't know if there's that much vacant land.
Because there were people sounding along with me who weren't joking.
That's not just complete shit.
I mean, look, I don't think I'm ever going to be killed by some Black Revolutionary Army. I'm not talking about myself as though I'm under threat.
That's what I mean. It's all going to be land in Wyoming, Kansas, Kentucky.
And joking about Mayo side with people who maybe kind of do sort of fucking hate white people. It just bothers me. Even if it never leads to an inch of harm done to me, it still bothers me. And
here's what I'll tell you.
I just want to say, with regards to...
go ahead.
Yeah, everything that you said I agree with. I think it's delightful. I think I'm a huge fan of what is, I guess, Black nationalism in the traditional sense, which is the idea that you should take advantage of whatever systems you can to try to form political, social, economic blocks, to not fully integrate and assimilate, but rather to distinguish yourself, to find ways to excise yourself from the drain of repeated cyclical systemic oppression. So I'm totally in favor of that stuff. The issue that I have is that nobody else seems to think that way. Whenever I see discourse about me on this, people talk about me like my positions on race are equivalent to like Donald Trump's or like Ted Cruz's or something. That I'm at best completely colorblind and therefore neoliberal, or at worst that I actively infest the left to destroy people's interests in Black nationalist projects. I feel like for the most part my positions are pretty okay. Maybe not perfect, but they're okay. I just take issue with people who take really good ideas like Black nationalism or land back, and then because they're edgy,
what do you have against Kentucky?
They turn it.
What do you think I have against Kentucky?
Land back is great, and if you talk to tribal leaders, they'll tell you some really sensible stuff. But go on Twitter and ask your average lefty what their opinions are.
You don't go on Twitter for good opinions, Vaush. You know that.
I do, but then you'll hear crazy shit.
Okay,
you'll like, yeah, I think
Tariq Nasheed is on Twitter.
All America should
Jesse
be
Lee
back.
Peterson is on Twitter. Okay,
that's true, but
Twitter's a shithole.
But it's not about the individuals. It's about the broader effect on the community. And it is definitely something I've noticed that at its best, the left is turning a blind eye towards some really prominent reactionary tendencies within its midst, just because the reactionary tendencies are being directed against privileged people. And I brought this up, and this is the last thing I said, over rambling. But the reason why this really bugs me is because we should have already learned our lesson about this. Man-hating feminism, quote-unquote, has been popular for a long time, but TERFs haven't reached the public stage until the past couple of years. And what a lot of lefties thought was just innocent joking around about the inherent biological violence ascribed to men and how they're all, violent and aggressive, et cetera, they didn't realize there was actual bigotry underlying this until it turns out, oh, wow, they think trans women also fit in that group. We've already seen how this goes. Hate against the oppressor is absolutely capable of turning as pernicious as hate against the oppressed. Maybe not as immediately harmful, but in terms of like the ideology.
I don't think while while I agree to some extent with the TERF example, I think we can't ignore the existing power structures that go into even like the TERF movement, because the TERF movement's born of white feminism. It is overwhelmingly white. Okay, there's a reason the UK is called TERF Island, right? It is an overwhelmingly white movement. So here's what I will say to you about movements that maybe ignore.
Is it not done by white women though?
Ignore reactionary elements within the movement. Yeah, there's going to be reactionary people within the movements. For anyone watching who still doesn't know, and any of my fans that came over also need.
I don't know. The way that he's making it sound is like it's done by like white men.
Just a full disclosure to let you know perhaps any conflict of interest. I'm a moderator on Vaush's Discord. All right, I've seen some of the just bizarro ideologies that come through these spaces, both left and right. And yeah,
so have I. I've met a shit ton of brown TERFs as well, but like. I don't know why we're ignoring like the fact that they're also like women as well. People just don't like white women. Well, I think people are selective about white women. In one sentence, they're oppressed like everybody else, and then the next sentence, they're like got the same privileges as white men.
I think anarchism is pretty based, but then you get into weird anarcho-capitalism.
Like when we talk about gender dynamics compared to men and women, white women are like just as oppressed as everybody else. But as soon as we start talking about, I don't know, Karens, they become Antifa super soldiers, and like they'll like execute every group of, or like affirmative action. When we talk about how affirmative action primarily helps white women, they're like, look at how not oppressed all of these women are, and then. But as soon as we talk about like men versus women, oh, they're so incredibly, it's really weird how we kind of flip flop on the, it's like, which one overtakes it? Is it the white card that overtakes the oppression of being a woman, or like, where is it like we're juggling their oppression?
It's not very based, nor is it anarchism, but people believe in it wholeheartedly. And there's some very, very big names making content promoting anarcho-capitalism. There's Strasserites in 2021. There's Hoppians and other kinds of esoteric fascists. Shit that I thought existed in fantasy, but people actually live that way. It's fucking wild. So what I'll cap that off by saying is that you are you've I hope have read a fair amount of theory. You're operating off of a decent history of your...
Read theory, huh? We've read theory, have we? I think we found the root of the problem.
Theory. The black diaspora, on the other hand, comparatively is very young in its revolutionary movements. It really is. Okay, so are there going to be some people who unironically say, yeah, kill the Mayo monkeys? Yeah, there probably are. Are there? I miss you making force femme jokes too. Were there people who unironically were saying, yes, force femme Nazis? Probably. But I look at the legitimacy of the movement. What legitimacy behind those people actually exists? And while there's a few people out there who have some audience with very reactionary views...
Nah, I think you could just look at what people say. If people are not arguing against the ethnic displacement of people, I think that, like, we can just look at what they say, right? We're not talking about like just saying, well, somebody saying, well, I'm a black nationalist, and just instantly going, well, yeah, you believe that black people are superior, should have their own nation state, and should execute all white people. No, we're literally going based off of a 3-hour conversation where the one topic was, should we be allowed to ethnically displace white people? That was the entire front to back, bottom to top, middle, everything in there. That was the whole meat and potatoes of the discussion, and it ended up with this person, the other person, engaging in saying ethno-states are not off the table. There's not really any, like, just because there isn't a historical precedent for this idea being bad doesn't mean that I'm willing to try it, because we've seen it literally happen with other groups of people. I don't know, maybe I'm a wild person for saying this. Ethno-states don't seem to work for white people. I'm not a racist, so I don't believe there's an essential thing to it. I don't think it's going to work for black people. Am I racist for believing that, white people and black people are not so different that black people are for some reason going to make ethno-states somehow work and not be unethical? Nah, I don't think so. But this ain't it.
They are not ever indicative of the whole movement. And the best way to make sure that those people don't gain power is to take steps to have black leaders lead the discussion on black liberation. That's
no shot. No,
I don't think you're the worst person.
This is id poll nonsense. I don't think black people need to take the lead of this shit. Would it be poggers? 100%. Representation, we always love to see it. But I don't think it's necessary that people do this shit. I don't think it is. I don't think we're going to go, you know what, Bernie Sanders or Vaush, who could do a very good job, just two people that I'm thinking of. I usually refer to Bernie Sanders because most people can reference it. You know, Bernie Sanders, you're really good on race issues. But fuck it, you're too white. Like, what? Come on. Like, who the fuck cares? We got a good candidate. Let's run him. You know, who the fuck cares if they're brown or black or white? Like, who the fuck cares, man?
Even on the left, talking about these issues, I really don't. There's plenty of people, white guys on the left, who trip over their own dicks whenever they talk about.
I tried to move it. I moved it, and then he swapped the scene.
Usually it's a facepalm.
But yes,
like, fucking
the answer is yes.
You asked before you did this, but at the end of the day, you've made some bad takes on Twitter. So have I, and but you're not the worst. I mean, I'm subscribed to Peter Coffin or I follow Peter Coffin on Twitter, and that's a whirlwind. That's a roller coaster ride. I don't know if you ever read Peter's tweets. So again, you understand there's going to be some people with faulty views.
Yeah, I have a few problems with this.
They don't have the power structures to make it an issue.
I have a few problems with
this.
Okay, First of all, I don't really go out of my way to make this like a huge subject that I overemphasize the importance of. For the most part, I just cover conservatives. The problem is that somebody made a video on me, and then I talked to her, and she can't denounce ethnic cleansing. I mean, that seems like pretty weird to me. Like, I don't think like, I'm going out of my way to over-exaggerate the harm. The issue then is that the left falls in with her. The only people online who support my interpretation of that debate are in my community. Outside of that, the entire Twitter sphere is buzzing with an affirmation of everything that I think is problematic about this type of discourse. I don't really care if it's not structurally possible for.
I want to see that.
My head
I don't know if that's
there are
true.
Racists or anti-Semites or ethnic cleanse defenders or whatever within the left, I think it's important for us to excise them. We do the same, or I should say we should do the same with tankies. There are a ton of people on the left who are like overtly genocide deniers, like very forwardly not socialist. But a lot of lefties turn the other way because many of those people are POC, which means that their incredibly bad opinions get framed as, their way of addressing these issues, and people who call them out for it, if they're white, get called white chauvinists or white colonialists, or people who ascribe Western values to, well, if my Western value is don't do ethnic cleansing or genocide, then I'm okay being a chauvinist with it, because I believe very strongly in those values. I don't think it's acceptable for us to look past this stuff just because it's not representative of the majority, and I think we should certainly be afraid of the fact that people on the left are afraid to talk about it. It's like bigotry of low expectations, like bad takes by minorities get like flown under because the white boys who tend to be the loudest voices on the left are scared of being accused of being racist for calling it out, which, hey, is exactly what happens to me. I'm getting called a racist right now in an argument that I had where I affirmed my belief in the validity of black nationalism and argued against racial essentialism. But it doesn't matter. For a lot of them, just disagreeing with a black woman is enough to cement your invalidity if you're a white guy. Again, I don't want to pretend this is some massive systemic issue. This isn't like the end of the world. I'm doing very fine. But it's clearly bad. And also, it kind of delegitimizes their movements, too. How does it make black nationalists look that they're uncritically associated with people who conflate black nationalism with ethnic cleansing?
Thank you. For fuck's sake, that's what I care about, dude. How are you gonna sit with your back straight, call yourself a black nationalist when you're not disowning literally, like, fucking half of you being people that think that, like, white people are inferior based on the color of their skin? Like, come on. That's when you just fucking jump ship. Like, I don't know what the fuck to say. Like, get the fuck out of there. Relabel yourself. Rebrand yourself. That shit's poisoned. That well is firmly poisoned.
To the people who are legitimately positing those ideas, you know?
It's not uncritically. There's, for all of those people who espouse those reactionary views, there are most certainly people within the realm or the audiences, the people who would be in that demographic that are critical of them. Do they have the same loudness or platforms to make enough noise to drown them out or attack them critically? Not always, unfortunately. I wish it were different that way. I wish that the historic conditions that led to us getting to this point would have allowed for the most level-headed and goals-oriented black radicals to lead the discussion. I really do. Unfortunately,
what? No shot. You're about to blame this on history. No shot. You're about to be. Well, you see, because in the past, more level-headed black people, when it comes to fighting for, people. What is this? A eugenics argument? Because like MLK was shot and didn't have like 30 kids, all of a sudden we're all dumb as like black people now? That's not an excuse. What? Just because all of these black people were shot and fucking killed by cops unrightfully who were protesting in fucking incredibly poggers and amazing ways doesn't mean that I have an excuse for being a fucking racist today. What the fuck is this shit, dude? What is this weird ass wonky brain shit, dude? What the fuck? MLK didn't have enough kids, so that's why we all suck at the... What? What? That's fucking weird, dude.
That's not always the case. So what I want it to be known is that I didn't agree with everything said on the panel. I agreed with some of it. I had a lot of fun discussing things. I as I said at the beginning, perhaps I spoke out of turn calling you a Western chauvinist. Thinking back, I don't think that what was I trying to say here? Sorry, ADHD. I lose it sometimes.
No, I'm not too offended about that. It's just I don't see the issue in calling out bad ideas. There aren't that many neo-Nazis in America either, but nobody gets mad at me. Well, Nazis get mad at me. Most people don't get mad at me when I like take time pulling apart their arguments. I think it's possible for these to be like good examples to tear apart. I don't think that you should refrain from attacking bad ideas just because they don't pose like much of an immediate threat. Which, to be fair, neo-Nazis don't. Broader like fascist QAnon type, sure, but actual overt neo-Nazis, not so much. Hold on one second. What? Probably the normal amount.
What?
Thank you. Sorry. No?
That face from Vaush.
After Flowers talks with me, she goes in with Mel.
It was like
Mel
almost
like
Pepega.
I can't speak to Mel. I don't know
Denier.
Mel's content. I don't. You can tell me. I don't know Mel's content. I'm not really familiar. I've heard some bad things, and I don't know if I watch Mel, I probably wouldn't be too big of a fan from what I'm hearing. But I learned to not completely judge content creators by what everyone says. You know, if everyone judged your content by what people on Twitter say about you and whatnot. So, what I'll say, and I won't take up too much of your time, because you know, I don't want your chat to think I'm sus or anything like that. My ideal goal ultimately would be your ideal goal, which is race abolition. So the thing that I lead with is that, yeah, race is a social construct, but it's one that some groups of people have been forced into at the barrel of a gun or at the tip of a sword for a very long time. So what I want is restorative justice, right? And I think that, are there going to be missteps along the way to that? Absolutely. Just like right now, you operate in this leftist space and you have to sit and argue about what's happening to the Uyghurs with other white leftists, something that should be fucking obvious, right? But that's an argument you've literally had to have. I don't know. You talked to, I think, was it I don't know, Jason Unruly or something, or Mike from PA.
Like Mel?
Like
yeah.
Calling out those ideas. Right?
Mel?
I mean, keep in mind,
there's nothing wrong with that.
TERFs are an example of a progressive movement going awry. TERFs are from the second wave feminist movement. I'm a man, you know? If I have those arguments, if I argue with the TERF, I'm doing basically the same thing. I'm taking a person who is a bad representative of a politically progressive
Irish, what are you talking
and I'm tearing
about?
them apart. But I think it's good.
I mean, systems influence individuals' abilities to self-actualize in a very tangible, we have data on it way. We have no data to show that like the differences in the way that people act have to do with genetics. Like specifically the genetic differences between like races of people or groups of people by and large, unless we want to get into like disabilities. Like we have evidence to show systems. We do not have any evidence to show genetics.
I don't know. I wish like I feel like the Uyghur genocide deniers and the black separatists, you know what I mean, the ethno-state types, of which there are a few.
Reactionary black separatists or what have you.
They should just be like laughingstocks on the left. I don't know, but they never.
I mean, a lot of them are. I really think maybe you haven't delved as deep into at least some left-leaning black spaces. To see how much they laugh at people like Tariq Nasheed, or laugh at people like the NOI, or laugh at people like fucking Umar Johnson, and things like that.
Here's my hot take. I actually don't think Tariq Nasheed would be despised by the left if it weren't for the homophobia. I actually think that if he continued being as virulently racist as he is now, he would not be canceled for it at all. It's the homophobia that makes him the enemy of the left. Because I don't think white people feel comfortable attacking him over his racism towards white people. And honestly, judging from the comment section, there are a lot of black people who seem to agree with his positions on mixed race children, for example. You can take a look at which families and which households support interracial marriage, and it turns out there are a lot of black people in this country who don't. So, like, it's a problem, but I feel like it's a problem which is exacerbated by our unwillingness to address it, frankly.
Genetics,
not as some
based on race,
black
though.
community issue.
Right, that's what I mean. I'm talking. We have data to show that your intelligence has to do with genetics as well. It has to do with, like, for instance, the size of your brain. And by size of your brain, I mean, like, whether or not your brain is this big or whether or not your brain is this big. But, like, humans don't have that variance, right? Like... Yeah, obviously. When I'm talking about there is no difference between genetics, I'm talking about between humans. Obviously, the only thing genetically different between, you know, Chat and a fucking dog is like, or the only difference between Chat and a dog is fucking genetics. You know, it's not that far apart, but hey, no. But like, is genetics, right? But not when we're talking about humans. When we're talking about human to human, no, the differences between us is like not at all genetic when it compares to, especially when you compare it to the environment, not at all, no.
To buy black people with black people, but it's a general, obviously wrong.
I'm talking about how the guy wanted to blame everything on history and also systems and genetics both play a part, of course, and how individuals behave, but we cannot try and reduce individuals only down to deterministic factors. Okay, I don't disagree with you that we can't do it. Boil it down to deterministic factors. What I was disagreeing with you about is, like you were saying, it sounded like you were equivocating the far right and the far left's validity when the far right talks about genetics and the far left talks about systems. Systems have merit to the argument that by and large affects the ways that human beings behave. But the genetics between people have no measurable data showing that there is reasons why we behave differently than one another.
I'm laughing. It seems, I mean, isn't that more fun and fair, really, since we're all opposed to those ideas?
Yeah. You know, it would be fair, and ultimately that's what I would like to see.
When have I said
and I'm not even speaking for myself at this point, because
when have
like
I
said, at the end of the day,
anything to counter that?
Don't call me out. Yes, I am.
Wait. Gosh, like I work for you for free. I have to watch out for your mental health.
Yeah. I do. Well, okay, look, I do appreciate you coming on. I don't.
Thank you for having me on. It's been a while.
For
and
free,
people
not
have come up to me
paid.
several times and said, "Oh, you
Internet
should talk to Vaush." And I'm
gender.
like, I feel like you're expecting too much, because I'm really not a confrontational person. I hopefully, I'm not really speaking to you though. I'm speaking to your audience, speaking past you basically. Give a chance is what I would say to let some Black voices speak on restorative justice and Black liberation, right? That's what I would say.
I fucking hate this shit, dude. I'm gonna need to do the in-poll gauntlet, dude. I hate this shit so much. Vaush, you know what? I think we really need some Black voices. Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna go up there with my goddamn recording of what fucking Vaush said, and I'm just gonna say the exact same thing. Because apparently they need somebody with more melanin to say the exact same thing for them to take their opinion seriously. I fucking hate this shit so much. We need to listen to these voices in this space. Listen, I know Black people haven't been heard, and that shit sucks. Trust me, I know there's been people that have disregarded my opinion because I'm darker than like what they would realistically want to hear an opinion from. I understand that, but like disregarding somebody's opinion that has logical merit just because they're white is not the way to address that fucking issue. Okay? You could say, yeah, you know what? I want more Black people to talk about politics. I want more Black people to be engaging in political discussion. But, like, saying, like, hey, you know what, Vaush, you need to listen to more Black people in a nebulous manner as if there isn't Black people that, like, agree with them. I don't know. That's really fucking weird to me. I could go on Vaush's stream tomorrow and just say, hey, by the way, Vaush, everything that you said was pretty based, and I am Black. Congratulations. Here's a thumbs up from your local neighborhood Black person. And they'll be like, okay, cool. So, like, now he's got the fucking goddamn, you know, stamp of approval, and now he's good? Like, fuck that shit.
You and your audience, and understand that, yes, there are some people who espouse reactionary views, and yes, there are some Black people who support them, and yes, there are some people who maybe play kid gloves with some of those reactionary views, right?
Yeah, but I'm happy to get
at the same time. At the same time, that exists with all
Black,
movements. So I don't think I'm not
going
to tell you to not talk about it. I think it could be important to point out these views where they are. There's really not a right answer on how to do it without eliciting the hate mob, other than, you know, use your platform to amplify a Black voice to do that criticism of the reactionary elements within the movement. And that doesn't sound fair to say on your channel, take a backseat to someone else's voice. But that's the best thing I could offer. I know it's not always fair, and sadly, though, it's been a brutally unfair system for Black Americans for a very long time. And there's a reason, as you know, talking to white nationalists, that reactionaries gain audiences. They speak to hurt, they speak to pain, they speak to alienation. So Black reactionaries do the same thing. And the best thing that we can do is also speak to that hurt, alienation, and trauma, but pointing them in the right direction. Did you have anything else to say to me? I won't keep you the rest of the night, sir.
No, I mean, I agree that these issues are difficult and have to be discussed.
Yeah, Rutch, that's what I'm talking about.
To people who have good ideas on the matter.
So I think at the back end, what they were referring to is like we should get Black voices because these people are going to respond better to Black voices than people like Vaush. So essentially play their game, right? If you're going to have these conversations, get a Black person to do it and just say the exact same things that Vaush is. That way they can't really hide behind this weird Western chauvinist shit. But that's how you get what happened to me, because I did this personally. This is This is like how you get what happened to me, where they just call you like the C word and they just move on. Like, that's it, you know? They'll just say that you're like an Uncle Tom and that'll be the end of it, you know? So there's not really any winning.
I mean, I won't like bring a Black guy on to speak for me because it feels kind of tokeny. Like Professor Flowers even accused me of that in her first video. Like, I only brought another Black person on to agree with me too. Because the fact of the matter is,
Black person was you referring? I didn't watch all of the video when it got to the shitty parts.
Intellectual media, I think she's nice.
Intellectual's nice.
Intellectual.
Yeah, I like her.
Yeah, she's cool. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. I can never really get into the like elevate one voice over others because of the race thing, because it seems like there's so often a really bad correlation between people's identity and people's takes on shit. You know, I don't know. If I brought someone on but I disagreed with them, I just end up arguing with them. So I don't know if there's much of a benefit to that really, like regardless of their race. But there are plenty of like, I mean, I don't think that like this is like a us versus them type situation. I really think that like 90% of the problem here is just people being like fundamentally uncharitable towards
Wonder
towards
if
the
they
idea
will
that, like,
become
white
the
people and other
oppressor
races
when
have
that
movements
happens.
are
So you could
representing white
argue
people.
for
I don't
Asian
fucking
women
know.
too.
We'll get over it. I just know
that they're the minority. I'm just going to be honest. I don't think women will be seen as the dominant power holder until they hold like such an overwhelmingly unignorable amount of power. Based on the way that we're going, to be honest. I think women could have 70% of all of the high-paying jobs in America, and we'd still consider them to be oppressed. I think that, and same thing goes for black people. I think black people could hold 70% of all of the powerful jobs in America, and we would still consider them oppressed. It would take so much for us to consider these groups that were historically and previously oppressed as being no longer oppressed, let alone potentially an oppressor class, that I just think that it would just take an overwhelming amount of time and evidence. That it would just have to be like unignorable. Like every single black person in the street has to be wearing a fucking suit, Rolex, driving a fucking Ferrari, and then like maybe you're gonna get that through. It just seems like we have no ability to recognize any kind of privileges that any groups might have that we deem as like oppressed. Right? I use oppressed because like we could talk about a host of other things that might fit this narrative. You know, gamers being one of them. Right? Or what have you. So, like, yeah. I mean, just to be clear, I do think, like, women and black people are oppressed. The reason why I did that was to meme.
Accuse me of being part of a white-hating movement. I don't want to lie when I say that it's not. So that's my goal.
No, you should be part of a white-hating movement. Join the dark side.
All right. Okay. Go.
The dark side.
Be gone,
man. Have a good night.
Thank you. Have a good night. It really is a lose-lose situation, huh? You know, if I talk on my own, I'm a white boy. But if I bring up
So ever since I started talking about mental health on this channel, people have been asking me, Dr. Egg, as a PhD in mental healthism, is there any way that you can tell me whether or not I'm mentally ill? Well, normally I would suggest going to a mental health professional and getting diagnosed that way, but I'm not a big believer in that approach. Here's a simple way that you can check whether or not you have a mental illness sitting on your chair right now. So, first, pull up Twitter. Then, look at your personal account. Have you tweeted more than 5 times today? Have you? Then you're mentally ill. That's it.
Okay, dude. Oh, I forgot we have this. I'm excited to see the drama.
black person on, I'm tokenizing them to speak in my stead, you know. But if I bring a black person who disagrees with me, then yeah, I don't know.
Oh, hello.
Dio, don't do that.
We're not changing a goddamn thing.
Don't do that.
Never forget.
That's fucking weird.
Never forget,
man.
my
Don't
friends.
be fucking weird.
We're gonna continue calling out all the bad takes. We're gonna continue being the dark
dude.
knight of the left, okay? What are we, the hero they need, but not the one they deserve, okay? We're gonna dab all over their goddamn bad takes. They're mad that I'm white. I'll get whiter. I'll bleach my skin. I'll look like fucking MJ sitting here, okay? I'll have to turn my ISO and my camera way down so I don't blind all of you with the destructive glare of my shiny skin, okay? Never forget.
Can't believe people listen to Vaush. There's a lot of takes that he has that are pretty good. For instance, his takes on black issues, trans issues, men's issues, women's issues. I think these are all pretty good takes, you know? These are all pretty good takes. I think a lot of his social issue takes